Hello, this is Mike from the Learning Center, and in this segment, we're going to discuss what a learning style really is. So first, some different learning styles that you may have heard of. You may have seen Black and Gardner. The most popular one that probably people have seen is the Myers-Briggs test. This measures kind of how, just in general, how you think about the outside world. These are your kind of INTJs, kind of things like that, kind of lettering, if you've seen that before. Some other ones, Honey and Mumford is a very popular one. The Gallup Strengths Inventory is actually used here at GCC with a lot of employees. You actually saw it there in the beginning to talk about what you're good at, trying to focus on what you're good at and trying to work on what doesn't come up. Importantly for us, we're going to have Kolb's experiential learning theory. What are these? These are all different ways to measure how you think and how you process information about the world around you. Now, learning style is something that's gone up and down in popularity over the years. A very, very popular one for a very long time was the VARK style, saying whether you're a thinking, reading, or a doer. And that is actually a style that has been debunked in modern literature as time goes on. Why even worry about your style? Well, you want to understand how you think. You want to be able to understand, okay, if I'm being classified as this, there's probably a reason for that. Why is that? And what does that really mean in terms of your strengths and weaknesses? What are you good at? What aren't you as good at? There's actually a couple of things that come up to this that usually surprise you every single time. The one that always comes up for me is just kind of how much I kind of scan. I know that, and we'll get into this, that I'm an assimilative learner, but I never really think about just how much information I'm processing at any given time. It's going to help you promote your learning efficiency. If you know what works and what doesn't, and kind of what your strengths and weaknesses are, don't spend hours bashing your head into the wall with something that's not going to work. If it's not going to work, let's try something different so that will work for you. And importantly, we have this thing called metacognition. Metacognition is thinking about how you think. It's a very, very interesting thing. There's actually whole courses and whole conversations, whole workshops dedicated to metacognition and how that impacts teamwork, how that impacts self-esteem, and things like that. We don't have nearly as much time to get into that as I would like to today, but trust me, Google it. There's a lot going on with metacognition. It's one of the hottest growing fields in learning science. So what we really want to talk about for this segment is what should a personality or learning test measure? And really, how should it measure things? Let's start with the how rather than the what first. A big problem with a lot of learning inventories is that you can very easily bias the results with what you think you should get. For example, a very common, believe it or not, personality learning test is how you think on hot button issues. If you already think you know what the general consensus is, a lot of people tend to push their results toward what they think or what they want to get rather than what they would actually get genuinely. Is there a way to measure it unbiasedly and how to actually get an accurate representation of how you think? With that in mind, what part of how you should think should it measure? Should it measure just solely based on what comes out of your brain, what comes out of your, and how your work kind of is? Should it dig a little bit too deep and kind of think about how your brain actually processes? Now, we're not neuroscientists. We're not going to sit here for hours and hours and hours and worry about specific parts of your brain and what's firing when. That's way too complicated. What do you think a personality or a learning test should measure, and how should it do that? I'm going to give you some time to think about that, and we'll meet up back here for the next segment. Thank you.